Hello and welcome everyone to our weekly Power Lounge. This is your place to hear authentic conversations from women who have power to share. My name is Amy Vaughan, and I am the owner and Chief Empowerment Officer of Together Digital. We are a diverse and collaborative community of women who work in digital and choose to share their knowledge, power, and connections. If you want to learn more about us, you can at www.togetherindigital.com. And today we are talking about something very important, especially for those of you who, like myself, battle or deal with seasonal depression. It's such a thing every year. I'm happy to introduce you all today to Dr. Akuya. Oh, sorry, my screen's rearranged and then I lost what I was reading. Boateng, Dr. Boateng, she is a highly sought after mental health and relationship expert with over 14 years of experience in clinical practice and education. She specializes in an integrative approach, treating anxiety, trauma, relationship issues, and other emotional concerns. She's the founder and CEO of Boateng Psychotherapy Counseling, where she partners with organizations in the integration of emotionally aware practice and initiatives. In the media, Dr. Akuya has contributed to such outlets as CNN, The Washington Post, HuffPost, Black Enterprise, Refinery 29, Philadelphia Inquirer, NBC News, Slate Magazine, Harper's Bazaar, and many others. Her genuine and empathetic voice adds to the growing culture of mental health awareness. If you're not following Dr. Akuya yet on social media, Instagram is the best place to go and follow her to listen and to learn more, but we're so glad to have you here with us today.
It is my pleasure to be here. I have been anxiously awaiting this community that I have heard so much about, and so I'm so excited to be a part.
Awesome. Definitely. This has been an ongoing topic, I think, and a growing topic for the last 2.5 years. You know, when you are in community with others where you can be somewhat vulnerable, these things tend to come up more often than not. But I'm curious because a lot of us within the organization are also very career focused and career minded. And we love hearing the stories of how women found their way into what they're doing. So how did you find your way into this practice, and what's shaped your unique perspective on it?
Yeah, I like this question because I like to think the practice chose me, right? That we have this essence that we come into the world with, and we grow and mature to find out what that's called, what that looks like in our day to day, and hopefully connect with it in a strong way in the world.
Mm,
I believe I've always had a keen awareness of people's pain,
mm,
and also this paired sense of trust that people offered me from a young age to share their experiences and to talk
mm,
about who they are. And so that curiosity paired with that sensitivity is something that I grew to understand was a powerful thing. Initially, I thought that was medicine. I really believed that I needed to grow up and become a doctor to heal people's pain physically and to support them in overall healing. As I matured, I realized that that sense of healing was specific. It
mm,
wasn't just the body, it was the soul, it was the spirit, it was the mind. And so, pairing my undergraduate degree and pre-med degree with a doctorate, I really pursued this unique perspective of wellness, not just psychology, but wellness, right? The core aspect of really what I learned in my upbringing, that mind, body, spirit connection,
yeah.
and understanding that true healing comes from a total holistic view of health. And so that's how I got into my practice, and so glad that I did it.
Yeah. Oh, such a fantastic answer. I have a quick follow-up question for you. When you finished so funny story, my first year of college was pre-med. I never finished. I made a pivot,
Okay.
but definitely very much the same thing. At a young age, I was
Yeah.
often like counseled to people much older than me, and it was always really interesting. And so it's funny how we just kind of do tend towards, oh, well, I want to help and heal others. I have to become a doctor. When
Exactly.
I read and heard, because I never finished pre-med school and went on to med school, obviously. But did you ever take a psychology class?
I did.
You
I
did.
took, everyone has to take that one psychology class,
Uh-huh.
right, undergrad.
One.
And that one class, I think it should be more, but I did take that one class and
Uh-huh.
I was so intrigued.
Yeah.
I was so intrigued to the point where I actually believed I might go into psychiatry.
Uh-huh.
It didn't steer me away from medicine. So I actually did go and finish the undergraduate degree. But yeah, I took that one course and it really sparked something.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I always wonder if I would have gone another year and gotten to the psychology class, because that also just floored me. The people who like our front line of defense for our well-being, our health and how we feel, oftentimes is
Yeah.
our general practitioner, and they usually have zero understanding of the human psychology. And it just, anyways, that's maybe a whole nother podcast for a whole nother time. It just made me explode. All right. So 1 in 5 Americans live with a mental health condition. And while such conditions such as anxiety are very treatable, only about 36% of people go to get help or are able to go get help. I should probably frame that up as well. What are some common misconceptions about mental health, and how are they hindering people from getting the support that they need?
Yeah. I've been in practice for a long time, and I think some of the things that people looking back can say was a misconception for them, and maybe even throughout the process, is number one, your mental health struggles or concerns that you're going through are rare.
Mm.
You're the only one.
Yeah.
I am uniquely going through this. Look at her. She looks like she has it all together. Oh my goodness, look at this person. They look like they have absolutely no issues. And so the misconception is that your mental health struggles are rare and
Mm.
unique to you.
Mhm.
Such a powerful misconception. Number two, that the emotional challenges that you're going through equal weakness, a lack of efficiency, failure, something that you are doing wrong is really something that is embedded at the core. I think it's really um, woven into our society, our media, many things that we ingest from early on. That as I'm going through emotional challenges, I am also learning that it makes me weak. Something core at the core of my character is flawed in some way. And so, third, I think the third most common misconception is that pursuing treatment is relegated to crisis.
Mm.
Moments of crisis are typically what bring people into treatment.
Yeah.
And so they believe that if my life is not falling apart completely, why do I need to go? Right? I should wait until I really see huge signs, big flags that, or to the point, unfortunately, where I can't even function to
Mm.
pursue treatment.
Yeah.
And so, how does that keep people, or what does that do to really prevent people from healing in general? Is that it keeps people isolated in shame and suffering and silence. The most powerful thing that feeds depression, anxiety is shame.
Yeah.
Shame grows, festers, thrives in silence, darkness, isolation. And so that's probably the biggest thing that I would say.
Oh, yeah. I feel that. I mean, you're right. It
Yeah.
does. It seems to take crisis in order for people to finally go out and seek help. And I think in that, I want to dig a little deeper on that. So again, like many of
Mhm.
us have been, will be dealing with many things in our lives. So, you talk a lot about self-awareness being kind of that
Mm,
first step. It's like, okay, if it's not a crisis that's driving me to this point to needing to seek help,
mhm,
how, in what ways are we diminishing our own suffering, either through comparison or,
mm,
things like that end up getting us not seeking help? What are some telltale signs,
mhm.
maybe more subtle signs even that, we might notice and see in ourselves that, lets us know maybe it's time to look for that help?
Yeah. Lack of growth and lack of movement.
Mm.
The essence of life and thriving is growth. And when you see different areas of your life are not growing financially, um, within your career, within your relationships, your sense of self,
Mm.
your ambition, the the motivation that you have to move forward, these things are starting to wane. you're not fulfilled, you're not satisfied, you're not compelled in any way by your life, this is a good sign that it might be time to talk,
Mhm.
time to become curious about your process. And that is a more easeful way into moving into therapy versus some of the other things that are telltale signs that I see more of: burnout, um, separation, divorce, relational concerns. That's the number one thing I typically see that brings people into treatment. Um, my relationship is having severe issues and I can't take it, right?
Yeah.
And it brings people into treatment where they begin to find out all these other things about themselves that they have neglected, have not known, or didn't have the proper space to be able to develop and explore.
Right. No,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. And I think that the subtle things that you mentioned are super important to reflect on because you said,
Yeah.
growth and movement. When you say movement, did
Yes.
you also mean like physical movement?
In every essence of the word,
Okay.
when we are not thriving, there's
Uh-huh.
a stagnancy
Yeah.
that happens in our full body, our mind. We have no lack of creativity, no curiosity, no interest in our body. We become stagnant,
Mhm.
sedentary, not moving too much, not even feeling connected to our bodies or feeling any joy and in movement towards our body, right? And
Right.
then our spirit follows.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
That's how it always feels at the beginning of the winter. I'm just like ready, like the
Yeah.
sunlight's gone and I am not outside as much. I mean, although now I've taken to taking walks outside even when it's cold, as long as
Oh,
it's sunny.
beautiful.
Don't
Yes.
come up because you're right. It's just like, where's
Mhm.
that drive? Where's that energy? Where's that desire
Mm,
to grow and move? Like I said, for me personally, it does seem to be very much dependent upon the seasonality and maybe other things.
mm,
But yeah, I think that that's a great bit of advice for all of us to sort of reflect on and just kind of, think about as we move or maybe move less throughout our day in one
yeah.
way or another. So I mean, talk about being still, a lot of us spent, a good part of a year,
Mm,
2 years being isolated. It's kind of a silly question to ask because I would feel it's an obvious yes, but how do you feel that the pandemic has impacted our mental health? Like what are some of the ways maybe that you've seen kind of
mm,
play out?
yeah. For some of us, it really did create this downward spiral of what existed.
Mm,
We knew existed as a
yeah.
result of our mental health, right? Depression increased, anxiety through the
Mhm,
roof, right? Personality disorders just kind of doubled down.
mhm.
So a lot of the things that were previously existing just didn't have outlet, resource, fresh water, anything, right? And so it just exacerbated that. And then for some people, it just woke them up to their mental health. Oh, wow, I do have mental health.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I need help. Oh, my goodness, my relationship is in crisis. I didn't realize I'm not here too often. And so it really woke up some, and for others, it really, unfortunately, really buried
Yeah.
some within their issues. The overarching thing, and a lot of research is coming out about this. We had an epidemic happening before the pandemic of loneliness.
Yeah.
It is, risen to top three reasons why people are more likely to die sooner,
Mhm.
and that just doubled during the pandemic. People are more isolated emotionally now, not physically. We were
Right.
physically isolated, and
Right.
now we're more emotionally isolated than we were before the pandemic. It's harder to reach out, it's harder to connect, it's harder to find areas of connection and support.
Mhm.
And so people are really struggling
Yeah.
with connection
Mhm.
more than they ever have,
Yeah.
right? And the ways that we did connect, we are hopefully moving slowly back to those spaces
Right.
with some caution,
Mhm.
unfortunately.
Yeah. 100%. I opened up both of our Together Digital Summits this week with a quick talk on loneliness and how
Mhm.
pervasive it is and how it actually impacts
Yeah,
our physical health. And yeah, I think we might have read
yeah,
some of the same research. It was like it can take up to 15 years off your life
it
and be the
does.
same as smoking like 15 cigarettes a day.
It
It's,
does.
I don't think we've ever had, so many people at one time be thrust into the test that is what loneliness and isolation is. It's something kind of, at least unfortunately in our culture and society, happens mostly when you're older. I work in a
Yeah.
nursing home. I have a mom who lives alone that I help to caretake for. I get to see a lot of what loneliness can do to people,
Mm,
but it's
mhm.
definitely not reserved for, the elderly. But then it's also not for you, even when you're not around people. Like everybody's been in a
Mhm.
crowded room before and felt alone. Because, like you said, it's
Right.
that level of ability to feel the desire, even to connect
Mm,
with others in a way that feels open and
mm,
vulnerable. And, I think maybe because my days, are spent helping and support women and bringing them community and trying to get them to feel that they can be open and share. Yeah, the loneliness thing, it definitely stuck out to me as well. I'm so glad that you brought that up. I think, again, like you said, oftentimes you're not alone when you're dealing with these things,
mm-mm,
and you don't have to necessarily suffer in silence or alone. So that's great.
mhm.
All right, so we've talked about some telltale and some maybe not so telltale signs of, it's time to maybe seek some help. Ways in which we might have been impacted over the last few years because of COVID, or how our mental health might have been impacted there. So, say you've decided to start your journey on addressing your mental health and well-being. How do you even know where to begin? And I know you champion this notion of creating a personalized wellness plan. What does that look like?
Yes, I love a personalized wellness plan, right? Why is that important? There's this psychologist, her name is Dr. Kristen Neff, and she has championed this idea of self-compassion. Developing a wellness plan that is personalized to yourself is radically giving yourself self-compassion and just lavishing upon yourself the things that you need and making sure that you are intentional about this being, this soul, getting all of the nourishment and saturation of life that it needs.
Mm,
Awareness is really developing a consciousness of self.
mhm,
It helps you to identify what specific needs support your overall wellness. It also requires observing what you feel, what
mhm,
you think, and what you yearn for. Why is that important? That's important because how do I know what I need without listening, stopping to listen, to take the time to really cultivate presence with the self, to
mhm.
pay attention to the yearning, to pay attention to what I'm thinking, to pay attention to what I'm constantly feeling, right? And so starting with awareness is always really valuable.
Mhm.
Moving to how do I take that level of awareness and begin to cultivate a presence and attention to the life that I have, um, and move it from constant reactivity to a quiet awareness of your true identity,
Mm, love that.
right? A mindful practice that supports mental freedom and balance, right? So that's mind. Body is how do I engage in a healthy practice that fuels me, that excites me, that's intentional, that encourages movement and care for invoking the curiosities that I have. Only you know your body. You know that if you're starting to get sad, you know that yoga is something that if you stretch out those muscles, it's really like you're stretching out your consciousness. You're giving yourself an easeful movement. Nope, that's not me. If you are the person I'm feeling, I gotta get out and run, right? I know my body needs the blood pumping, it needs to have that active movement, right? And so body is not just movement, but what I put in my body,
Yeah.
right? I know that I sometimes I'm sluggish, right?
Mhm.
And so I need to have vitamins and nutrients that really give me that energy, that vitality, right? But it only comes from me listening.
Yeah.
sitting in presence, understanding that,
Mm,
right? And then hopefully that spirituality, that spirit, that mind, body, spirit. The
mm,
spirit is what excites me, what invokes me, what propels me forward, right? What brings me into connection with my true self.
mhm.
The self, the larger self, not the inner critic, not the false sense of self, right? The imposter syndrome, the one that kind of hates on her all the time, but really that true self. What practices help bring me back to that sense of focus,
Mhm.
right? And allows me to quiet all the turbulence internally and make space for desire, make space for meaning making, right? And so developing a wellness plan really is an understanding of self,
Mhm.
practices that go along with that understanding, right? A daily mindfulness journey that takes you there,
Mhm.
right? And understanding why, right? So sense that sense of meaning.
That's beautiful. I love it. Yeah. I love that you're like that sense of awareness. What do you feel? What do you want to feel more of? What do you
Mhm.
think? What do you yearn for?
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that came to mind when you mentioned that. One, we've talked a little bit in the group about energy audits, really looking at our
Mhm.
calendar and our week and thinking, what were the moments in time in which I felt I had energy? And that could be time of day, it could be activity that you
Yeah.
really felt yourself and alive and energetic or went into flow. And then
Mhm.
it also reminded me of two more things. The book Bittersweet by Susan Cain. Have you read?
Mhm. I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
So good, so good. She
Mhm.
it's really just all about the place for what is it? I don't have the book right in front of me. I'm trying to remember the subtitle. It's Bittersweet. The place something about how sadness and longing belongs within our lives. And it's
Mm,
really, kind of taking the good with the bad, understanding the
mm,
aspect of bittersweet. Our lives were not meant to be always like up here and completely joyous and over happy. There's this
yeah.
beautiful space in between in which where we can find nostalgia, maybe with a little bit of sadness, but then somehow brings us
Mm,
comfort and some sense of joy, all
yeah.
kind of at the same time, which was
Right.
also helpful for me when I started going to therapy. My therapist gave me an emotion wheel and all these words.
Yes.
I didn't know that I could have all these feelings, all this
Yeah.
language,
Right.
So when I was journaling and writing how I was feeling each day, I
Mm,
think that's another thing is journaling. I know it's not for everybody, but even just jotting down
mhm,
like quick little notes of like, here's how I'm
mhm.
feeling in my body. Here's how I'm feeling
Yep.
emotionally. Lets me
Yep.
see trends. So I kind of know like certain times of the month, certain seasons of the year, certain
Right.
activities kind of tend to get me into that space. So like you're saying, it's very much a part of, growing your own self-awareness. One last
Yeah.
thing I'll mention is another great like tip we've all shared as a group in the past is follow your envy. It shows you what you want.
Mhm.
A lot of
Exactly.
times, we spend, especially as women, so much time comparing ourselves and beating
Mhm.
ourselves up. And so the next time you're comparing
Mm,
yourself to someone, look at him, her, whomever, and say,
yes.
what is it about what they have that I'm needing, that I'm desiring, so that you can start to fulfill your own needs that maybe you're ignoring and they're showing up as envy instead. I always found that super helpful when I was doom
So
scrolling.
true. So very true.
So, what about if you're going to seek help? So, say you've kind of gone through the process of creating the self awareness and a more personalized practice. Do you have any tips or advice for anybody out there who's looking to get outside help?
Yes. There are some resources that I put into the chat. There is no perfect time.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about it, it's time.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. If it comes to you, it's time. And so beginning to look for outside help really looks like committing to doing it. Number one, making that commitment. I will do it.
Yeah.
And I'm entering into the process of healing by looking for a suitable um, collaborator with this
Mhm.
process that I'm going in. And so some of the resources, Psychology Today, wherever you live, Psychology Today typically has therapists online that will be able to support you, whatever communication issue that you might be having, or um, Also, whatever demographic that you might be in, there's someone for you, right? And
Love
keep looking. There are sometimes you find you hit a wall, you're not able to find the practitioner that you want. Keep looking, keep trying, keep pressing. If you're finding that you're having challenges with funding and getting someone that can be similar to what you would like within your demographic, I put all the other resources for women of color that
that.
have funding. You can get free therapy since the pandemic. So many different resources have popped up to give free therapy sessions to people. So that's not even a limiting factor anymore
Right.
if that's something that you need,
Fantastic.
right? I also typically answer this question, even though it's not a question, therapy versus coaching. What do I need?
A great question. Yeah.
Yes. So outside help can look like many things. Therapy is really supportive in trying to understand the why,
Hmm.
the underlining issues that may be um, chronic, in a pattern, in a cycle that you have hard time understanding, or you find yourself replicating over and over and over. Therapy helps you understand that and really get some resources and strategies. Coaching, however, really helps you to set goals and move forward on those goals, hopefully with a higher level of awareness of self that you have already mastered ahead of that process, or that's the psychological understanding I'm speaking of, that then you go to the coaching process that can help you set goals and move forward.
Yeah.
What I typically do is really work with people as a therapist in doing coaching with women that are entrepreneurs and executives to help you understand how the why impacts what you do. That's one thing that as entrepreneurs and women in business, sometimes we may not understand,
Yeah.
right? And so finding someone that can support you in both is also really, really helpful.
That's amazing. Two great distinctions. I love that so much. Thank you for adding that in. The resources as well that are being listed in our chat for our live listeners will also be shared in our show notes as well. So hopefully you all take a look at those. And thank you, Julie, for finding Bittersweet, How Sorrow and Longing Make Us Whole. We did that one. And then we also read Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart, also a really great
Oh, good one. Good
if you're
one.
looking for language around different types of, everything. I remember one of my favorite ones that still sticks in my mind was Disenfranchised Grief,
Mhm.
which was all about the fact that like whenever something sorrowful happens to us, but others don't
Mhm.
necessarily think it is something worth mourning, like divorce
Mm,
is often
mhm.
considered falls into this camp.
Right.
There's lots of things in there that people, we just think, you should be sad and mourning if you lose a loved one. What about if you lose a
Yeah,
job? What if you lose a partner? What if you lose a friendship?
exactly.
Like there's so
Exactly.
many other things out there that we don't slow down and
Yeah.
truly acknowledge and recognize the grief that other people are experiencing. And so it was sad, but I love Disenfranchised Grief. And that just goes right back to bittersweet. All right, let's see. Our next question is oh, this might be a little bit of conjecture, but this comes from me talking to a lot of very hardworking and ambitious women. But a lot of people put off addressing their mental health and wellness because they are too busy. What advice do you have for our listeners
Mm,
on how to slow down and take the time they need to understand more about themselves?
yes. Um, what you're moving toward is not being served
Mm,
to the highest potential if you don't slow down and have an awareness of who you are showing up as you are going there. If you feel that you are too busy to sit in intention and purpose and awareness, I would rethink where you're going, right? There is so much to success that could look like completion for many people, but really true success is really an individualized personal growth path,
mhm.
you versus you, right? And if you're not aware of that, if you're not moving at a pace that you are alive, awake, and sober, you're not able to have true success. And so make the time. What does the time look like? The time really looks like, there are many people that I work with that are extremely busy people,
Mhm.
right? There is 24 hours in the day. There is 3 minutes. You do have 3 minutes somewhere to
There you
be able to sit in quiet, to recalibrate, to make a different decision,
go.
to close your eyes and breathe, to choose and come into uh, come into an awareness of what it is that you need to do next, right? Moving from operating all the way in your cognitive awareness to your heart is also super helpful, right? All of these things are really helpful in starting even before you go to therapy, even before you see a coach, even before you begin to make a decision to do something different, right? How am I showing up? Who am I in this meeting? What essence do people get from my presence? Right? These are the questions that really do help. Tangible things, really helpful. Take a few moments in the middle of the day. People are always like, "Oh, I don't have time in the morning." Okay, cool. Take a few minutes in the middle of the day. 3 minutes. Think about what you've done before that, before those 3 minutes, how you showed up. What was the essence of what people experience as a result of being in your presence? And how close is that to what the legacy might be that you want to leave? The other thing that you can do at the end of the day, 10 to 15 minutes, sit down and write a reflection. Write a reflection of, again, this is emotional and psychological things, not the goals that you just met. Sit in reflection. How am I moving closer to who it is that I am becoming, that I'd like to see myself as? What are some things that I did to get closer to that today? Right? As a partner, as a spouse, as a mom, as a friend, as a person, as my closest confidant and friend to myself, right? So those 10 to 15 minutes of reflection, 3 moments of redirection internally really begin the process. Those are tangible things that you can use tomorrow.
I love it. And I think there's always time to slow down unless somebody is
There's
like
always time.
the balance and you're saving a life, which I mean,
Yeah,
most times, let's be honest, that's not what we're all doing
yeah,
here.
yeah.
There's always time to slow down. And I think the thing I've learned over the last year in kind of putting wellness in more of a priority, despite being busy,
Mhm.
we're all busy, is I've realized that if I take the time to do these things, it makes more
Yeah,
time and room in my
it
life.
does. It does. It really, really does. There are so many people that are operating. Busy is a post-traumatic response as
Yes.
well.
It
It
is, and it's a
is.
numbing agent. I'll also
It
attest to having done
is.
that.
It is. It is because when you talk about slowing down, if you're in a meeting, you are rushed in a meeting. You're eating, you're drinking something. You gotta you gotta log on. The kid is pulling out your foot. There's stuff.
Yeah.
There's real life stuff. And hear me when I say that. I hear you. There's real life stuff. You can take a moment as you're logging on, or even you didn't get a moment before you logged on. As you log on, someone asks you that first question, you take a breath. That's a good question. Let
Yeah.
me take a moment to think about that.
Yeah.
I can run and stay busy, or I can choose to be present
Mm.
and alert and aware of what I'm doing in a purposeful way.
I love it. Like you said, I think working from a place of knowing and being your truest self and not reactionary is also
Yes.
another thing that doesn't give you just physical and mental space, but like, a more spiritual space, in my opinion. You've, like you said, you feel more. I think that's what I loved about Susan Cain's book.
Mhm,
How sorrow and longing belong in our lives is just,
mhm.
so much as I was reading it made me really feel grounded in there. I'd be reading while I was watching
Yeah,
my daughter do soccer practice and it
yeah,
just noticed every little thing around me. And I was like, this is cool. And, those are the things, from a dopamine standpoint, so much better than
Mhm.
doom scrolling on my phone or looking at
Yeah.
social media
Yes. Yes.
and whatnot. So yeah, definitely recommend those books. All right.
Mhm.
So we've got some live listeners with us today, as I mentioned earlier. And before we turn things over to them for them to ask questions, if they have any, again, feel free to drop them in the chat or come off of mute. Before we go, what other pieces of parting advice do you want to share? Like, what are some good thoughts, things that we didn't get to ask or dig into that you want?
Mm. Um, you are one of the most resilient creatures in the universe, right? And you are able to handle much when you give yourself the ability to recover. Give yourself the ability to recover, make a commitment to replenish what has been given out, to sit in silence, to refresh all of the curiosity and the creativity and the thoughts and the essence of who you are, right? And give yourself a moment to recover.
Yeah.
That is the number one thing that I believe, and working especially number one with women that are ambitious.
Mhm.
Probably 90% of the women that I work with, right, have either come close to burnout, are currently in burnout, are on leave because of burnout. And that's a real figure, are on leave because of burnout, or have just come back from a leave because of burnout.
Mhm.
Recovery changes your life. Take time to recover.
That's great. I agree. And I loved that your answer when I asked you before we started, what are you doing this weekend, Dr. Akuya? She was like, I'm resting. It's the best answer
Yeah.
ever. Best answer ever.
Yeah.
I remember when I used to try to pack in as much as I could into a weekend as if my life depended on it. And then I really learned that slowing down, disconnecting, not being in front of a screen and spending time either with myself or with my family and friends was the most healing thing. And it seems like 2 days is
Yeah.
never enough sometimes, but if you're actually being
Yeah.
intentional about it and giving yourself time to rest, you'll find
Yeah.
2 days is often enough. And I
It's
love how
true.
you talked about recovery. It reminded me as
Mm.
well, and I've been trying to chase her down. Um, I can't think of her last name right now. She's has like the book Nap, no, Rest is Resistance. And she's
Oh,
like,
Rachel.
yes.
Yeah,
I
Rachel Cargill.
I really think there's a lot about, there's so many things, other things we didn't get into today, but about rest and recovery that we don't acknowledge. I think because it's not a physical wound, right? If you cut yourself,
Yeah.
you're going to go put a Band-Aid on it. If you sprain your ankle, you're going to take it easy on it for a while.
Yeah.
So funny how we treat our minds differently than we do our bodies when it comes to the need for rest and recovery.
Yes.
So yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I
I
didn't
had one more thing
please
I
do.
forgot to say. If there's someone that's listening, and recovery and rest and peace and all of the things that we're talking about right now is a luxury,
Yeah.
and you don't have access to it,
Mhm.
and it's very hard for you to dip into. And based on your experiences internally and the turbulence and trauma that has racked your body and brain, it feels almost impossible to do those things. You are okay. It's
Mhm.
okay. Take time to move towards, get into a space, get into a healing space that can help gradually move you towards what this
Mhm.
experience is that we're talking about. You're not flawed or broken if you're
Yeah,
having a hard time doing that.
right. I agree. I always feel bad for
Yeah.
people that are like, I can't meditate. I can't sit in stillness. I'm like, do a walking meditation. That's how I got
Yeah.
into it. Like noticing
Hmm.
every footfall, every movement in your muscles, just
Hmm.
until I could learn to sit and be still.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such great advice. We did have a question come in from one of our listeners, Elizabeth. She wants to know, can burnout be connected to being stuck in a rut? For example, I'm not feeling burnt out from pulling too many hours, etc. I feel
Hmm.
burnt out because I'm bored.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. You can definitely feel that burnout. It's really, again, that lack of growth and movement, right?
Mhm.
So the lack of growth and movement exacerbated over a long period of time is stagnancy. Over a long period of time, that becomes harm, right? That lack of, if you think about a plant, and we don't transplant that, we don't take that plant and put it in a larger thing, the plant will begin to die. right? And so, yes, you can have burnout that's associated with stagnancy, with lack of curiosity, insightfulness, creativity, that's either stifled because of something you're going through, the job that you're in, um, maybe even you not being associated or attached to something that gives you passion
Mm.
or that's connected to your sense of desire and fulfillment. Um, yes, you can be in burnout.
Yeah, it's a great question, Elizabeth, and really good point. 100%. I feel like I've been there at some point in my life.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions from our listeners? If not, like I said, Julie has been so kind as to drop all of Dr. Acuna's Instagram, her website, additional resources all in the chat. We will also include those in the show notes. Dr. Acuna, thank you so much for all that you're doing, the coaching and the work in general. It's so important, and we need more good therapists out there like you. And I appreciate all of you for showing up today, for slowing down and taking the time to be here. I hope you all found it helpful, and I hope you all get some rest this week. We're excited. Next week, we are going to be welcoming Kim Scott, who is the author of Radical Candor. If you haven't read her book, that or Just Work, I absolutely encourage you to check it out and then join us next week to listen. Until then, thank you, Dr. Acuna. Sorry, Dr. Acuna.
Okay.
Oh, goodness. It's Friday. I hope you all have a restful and enjoyable weekend. Thank you so
Hey,
much.
Amy, before we go, we
Yes.
actually have a question from Jennifer.
Perfect. Okay. And I didn't see it in the chat. Okay, I
Have it.
see it here. I'll be starting my therapy again in a week, but in
Great.
the time, yay, right? Tips on feeling like you go through so many more hard things than others.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and the way that I'm hearing that, right? How do I, what are some internal strategies when I am feeling like
Mhm.
I'm going through more than other people? You might be, we just acknowledge that, right? We acknowledge the truth of that. It
Mhm.
may feel, that may be a feeling that you are true aspect of your reality,
Mhm.
right? And so honor that, make space for that,
Yeah.
right? Even if that space is a righteous anger,
Mhm.
right? Even if that space is why me, even if that space is this is so hard and it's not fair and I wish it wasn't so. Let her speak, let her cry, let her scream, let her be angry. Yes, and make all the space for that emotion. Make space for the sadness, devastation, the sorrow, right? However it manifests for you, allowing yourself to have this healing space. I want you to even create a healing space in your home,
Mhm.
right? Create this space in your home where you go, right? That you have your candles, you have your plants, you have whatever it is that saturates your soul and allows you to really go into the space of emoting and going into the space of feeling. Don't stay there.
Right.
There may be something happening for you that really lulls you into staying there.
Mhm.
That's for healing. That's for emoting. And your life is vast. You are experiencing more than just this one reality. And so give yourself permission to feel joy. Give yourself permission to laugh, to feel curiosity, to go out and run, to play, to do other things as well, and also to emote, to grieve, to lament, whatever that feels like. Yes, it is true. You may go through more hard things than others. Maybe a feeling, it may be a reality, but it's real and it's yours,
Right.
right?
I love
Until we make space for that, we don't live there.
that. Mhm. Thank you. Jennifer says thank you. Such a great
You're
answer.
welcome.
Love it because,
Welcome.
yeah, again, a whole nother episode talking about how we're all taught to repress and suppress our emotions and
Mhm,
feelings aren't allowed.
mhm.
Oh, so good. So good. Thank
Yeah.
you again so much. And thank you, Julie, for calling out that question. I'm sorry I missed it. We had a bunch of folks in the chat saying thank you. Everybody seemed to gotten a lot out of the conversation. So I appreciate you all taking the time to listen in. And we hope to see you all next week. Thank you so much, Dr. Aquia. It's been so fabulous having this conversation with you.
My pleasure. Thank you all for being here.
All right. Takes care, everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye.